Greetings and welcome to Starkville, now part of the Athletic Baseball Show, where you'll find great baseball talk all week long and all season long. I'm Jayson Stark. I write about baseball for The Athletic, and I am joined once again by my good friend, writer, broadcaster, professor, distinguished former major leaguer, and the voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio, Doug Glanville. Doug, as usual, has just climbed off a red eye from the West Coast. And Doug, I feel like you're approaching your career record for most red eyes before the All-Star break. Am I onto something?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I feel like I need to tally these things up.
You should.
Usually I tally it by where I fall asleep in the house at any given time, which I don't know when. But yeah, if you have enough red eyes, what is that? Do you need like Visine or how does it work? Like,
yeah, that's what Terry Francona
get enough. You start to look kind of alien. So, yeah, I doubled up on red eyes. I went Saturday morning, Boston to LA, and then I went after Sunday's game back. I don't know what's worse, but doesn't seem to matter. It's cumulatively, I just sort of go through the fog, and then hopefully in a couple of days, I'm back to my old self. Yeah, that's what we got.
Okay, at least you never fell asleep during the show, so that's good.
Yes,
and it's only sleep, but I keep thinking if you were only a little more Ohtanic, that's the adjective you made up to describe the amazing Shohei Ohtani, you wouldn't feel a thing. Okay.
Well, rumor has it, I heard he loves sleep though, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's because he's mind over sleep matter.
No, yeah.
He just wills himself to do whatever he needs to do, including sleep. And see, we bring this up because this is going to be the most Ohtanic episode of Starkville ever. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So this is going to be the Ohtani show, the Starkville Ohtani special. Are you up for that, Doug?
Yeah, I think we need to make it. Well, in his case, instead of having a statue to Ohtani, we have a bank. We have to have a bank, the Bank of Ohtani. That's what it's going to take to pay him his next deal. And I'm not mad at him for it. So we'll just create our own bank.
Only in Starkville? Because we're not signing him.
Yes. Oh, in Starkville. It'll be like virtual coins or something.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. Like virtual fictional money. That's the best kind. We're very good at that kind.
We have a lot of it.
All right. On to that note, let's bring in our two favorite Shohei Ohtani experts. First, it's our friend Mark Gubicza, who does such a great job good to see you there, pal. Gubi does such a great job in lightening us and entertaining us on Angels games on Bally Sports West. Joining him is the tremendous Angels writer for the Orange County Register and the author of the best Ohtani book ever written, Sho-Time, Jeff Fletcher.
Oh, yeah.
Gentlemen, there's each of our books here.
Where mine's at. Oh, I know I have one too.
Yeah, get your books out. Let's go. Hey, welcome to Starkville. Fletch, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me, Jayson, and thanks to you and Gooby. Both have your names in the book as have written some glowing endorsements for it. So I appreciate that from both of you guys.
Yeah, the pleasure was ours. Happy to be part of it. Hey, boys, we are going to talk about 25-1 games later in this discussion, so just be ready. But let's dive in on Shohei. Doug and I are like you guys. We're just in awe of this guy. And, I don't even think it's fair to imply that he's human because he's really superhuman. You guys watch him day in and day out. So how would you describe what you're watching? Mark, let's start with you.
You know what? I thought I was blessed to be able to watch Bo Jackson play back in the day and be his teammate, watch him, play football games at the Coliseum. But seeing what Shohei's doing every day, I mean, the guy plays every day and swing the bat like he's doing, yet pitch the way he's throwing the ball. What's he have? 117 strikeouts going right now and 25 home runs swinging the bat. I mean, I talked to David Cohn. I even talked to Bud Black recently out in Colorado. After we pitch a game, we can't even move the next day. Every part of our body, our ribs, our back, our legs, every part of our body is killing us. We're just happy to play long toss and run foul pole to foul pole. And he's hitting 100-mile-an-hour fastball the very next day, going like 459 the other way. There's times I feel bad. Like when he does some stuff during the game, I literally, instead of trying to analyze it, I just laugh. I go, it's not real. Plus, every day, the same thing, the same look he has. It was great the other day. We were walking on, I'm on the team bus, and David Fletcher comes back. They were good buddies. And he just starts laughing. I go, you forget he's still a kid, that he loves what he's doing. But when he goes on the baseball field, he's not human. He is the unicorn. So it's just great to be able to see what he does.
Exactly. Fletch, you literally wrote the book. How would you describe this man?
It's just incredible. And I think the appreciation for me comes more from talking to guys like Gooby and current players, because they understand more than the rest of us supermortals how hard it is to do what he's doing. Because the last time I played baseball, I was 13 years old, and lots of guys pitched and hit, so it wasn't that big a deal. But to do it in the major leagues is just incredible, and to be at the high level that he's at each year is just amazing. And I certainly don't take it for granted. I don't assume he's going to do it next year, because it's really, really hard to do, even for him, as we saw like at the beginning of his career. So I think it's just, we need to really appreciate it and not just go, oh, that's Ohtani, that's what he does, and he's whatever.
That's right.
It's really hard even for him, and I think it's incredible that he's done it now 3 years in a row.
Yeah, Doug invented a word to describe him. Doug, tell him your word.
Well, there's nothing in the dictionary, so I just called it what it is. It's Ohtanic. That's it. That's the adjective. I don't know what else to call it.
Right. It's Ohtanic. It's unique. Yeah. And he leads the American League in home runs as a hitter. He leads the American League in lowest opponent batting average and best strikeout rate as a pitcher. And he's the same person. Okay. So which of those amazes you the most? I'll start with you with this one.
It's funny because people ask me a lot, like, is he a better hitter or a better pitcher? And I've always said he's a better pitcher, because he never really had a slump as a pitcher. He just injured as a pitcher, but he had some issues as a hitter. But this year, he's been a better hitter. And it's just really crazy to think that he's got so much talent in him that he can go, that you could make a case for both of them. And I think, the more incredible thing is just the hitting, because like I said, it looked kind of like, especially after last year, that he was maybe moving more towards being a super elite pitcher and just a really good hitter. But now he's gone back, and now he's a super elite hitter and a really good pitcher. So it's pretty incredible.
What about you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I sit there and wonder, what is he better at? And Doug, this thing too. I think part of it is the reason why he's such a great hitter now is because he's such a great pitcher. So he almost thinks in lines where, because everyone he's facing is elite, fastballs, great spin on breaking balls. So he almost goes up there thinking, okay, what would I throw to me? And that's why, he stays back on the baseball so well. His power the other way. As a kid growing up, I think George Foster was the one guy I always remember having unbelievable power. Granted, I was booing him at the Veterans Stadium because he was with Patty at that point. But he can hit the ball to right center and just crush it. Shohei's doing the same thing. These are fastballs at 99 miles an hour. He struggled a little bit this year early on changeups, but then now I look up, he's got 5 home runs versus all speed now. So I think part of it is adjustments, because what he does on the mound has made him even better, because he has about 7 or 8 pitches he can go to. So no one in baseball on the mound has more pitches than him. So he knows exactly what to look for as a hitter. So I'm even more impressed with his hitting right now. He never seems to be off balance at the plate. There was times in the past where, he's moving his feet, he's opening up that front hip. He's staying back on everything, and he's so locked in, and his power going up the middle the other way. I hated facing anybody to hit the ball the other way. That means they're staying on all my pitches. If you pull a home run, generally it's a mistake by me, but he's hitting pretty good pitchers' pitches a long, long way right now.
If I can add something to that, it's super interesting. Last year, Ohtani got he saw Clay Holmes threw him a 2-seamer, 100 miles an hour. So, it cut that direction, So Ohtani's like, hey, I don't have a pitch that goes that way. This is in June. and he just starts fiddling around with it in the bullpen. And then by the end of August, he's got a great two-seamer that he just like invented because he saw it when he was at the batter's box.
Doug, didn't Gooby just raise that thing that you want to see? You want to see him pitch to himself?
Oh yeah. I think that's, that's what I'm waiting for. And he just, because he's so fast, by the way, that's one of the underrated characteristics of this man. He's an absolute burner on the bases. So, I did the Cubs Angels game not long ago, and he hit a ball, and Suzuki was in right. And I'm looking at it, and it's where, the line is now lower. So the scoreboard, you can't really see it because it hits the electronic. So you're like, where is it? And he's running the bases. I look up, and he's at third. He's already standing at third. I was like, what? Yeah. And then they rolled it a home run, so he didn't even have to run. So I was like, it's something you call in a game, and you just have to tell people that on radio. Like, by the way, when it ricocheted off the wall, he was sliding into third base. He's that fast. So, just amazing. And I guess, one question I have for you guys is, you always say, like, I remember where I was when the Phillies won the World Series in 1980, for example. What about like the first moment Shohei Ohtani really wowed you? Do you recall like going, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense? I'll start with you, Mark.
I think it was the game when we had a perfect game going against Oakland here at home when his debut in 2018, and watching him throw. And I remember Matt Olson, by the way, he's got like 25 home runs this year himself, taking a swing at one of his splitters. And even on the follow through of the swing, he's like, I got like no chance. He was like, I got no chance. I'm like, oh my. I'm thinking, wow, he's throwing like upper 90s, touching 100, and he's throwing a split that point might have been the most unhittable pitch maybe in the history of the game. He hasn't thrown it as much this year for obvious reasons or some unknown reasons. That splitter when he threw and watching a really good hitter like a Matt Olson swing like that and thinking he's got no chance at the follow through of his swing, I'm like, wow, this dude is like ridiculous on the mound. Because I watched him in spring training that year, and everybody's walking around like, I don't know if this guy should even be enabled. He had bad numbers pitching, he had bad numbers hitting. Everyone's like, but if you watch his bullpen sessions, watch him hitting, there's something there. It's got to be incredibly hard to go from being in the comfort zone of being over in your home country over in Japan, then all of a sudden you're supposed to be the new Babe Ruth. And there's a lot of expectations. You got to deal with different things from, the language, the culture, the baseball, everything. But I saw something in both his bullpen sessions and hitting, batting practice. I thought, wow, this dude's special. But I had no idea he was going to be this incredible. But that game against Oakland, when he almost had a perfect game into the seventh inning, I'm like, wow, this dude is unreal.
Yeah, that one was definitely the game where Ohtani sort of arrived because, like Gooby said, everybody was very skeptical about him in spring training. But after he had that game and he also hit like 3 homers in the week before that game, everybody's like, okay, this is for real. But for me, I would sort of say that Ohtani's rebirth, quote unquote, was the first game of the 21 season that he pitched. Was a Sunday night baseball game. It was against the White Sox, and it was the first time he pitched and been in the lineup at the same time in a game. And at the top of the first inning, he throws like a few 100-mile-an-hour pitches, which we hadn't seen in his little brief comeback from Tommy John the year before. And then in the bottom of the first, he hits a ball like 115 miles an hour, 450 feet. So there's very few guys in all of the major leagues who did both those things, or did either of those things, I should say. And certainly nobody did both of them. And he did them in the first inning of his first start of the season. And when that happened, you're pretty much going like, oh, wow, this is really going to happen again. He's really back. So that was a pretty eye-opening moment.
Doug, I don't know if you have one of those, Doug. Here's mine. I went to spring training. I think this was 2020. But was he back on the mound in 2020? Fletch?
Yes, and well, he was recovering.
Might have been 19. I can't remember now. So 19. It must have been 19. So I remember I'm in spring training, and the Angels had not announced when he was going to throw his first bullpen. And then I saw the Japanese writers were just kind of buzzing, and they were telling me, we think he's throwing a bullpen today. And then like this stampede busted out. Just an ordinary spring training meeting. And now the entire Japanese media corps, which is about 700 people, starts sprinting to the backfields toward where those bullpen mounds are, and every fan who was in attendance follows them. So I thought, I'm doing this. So we wander back there, and just to watch this guy throw his first bullpen of spring training, they outdrew the Rays. I'm telling you, it was the most amazing sight I have ever seen. And like, I know what he is. I thought I knew what he is. That's when it really hit me. He's more than just a baseball player. He is a freaking international rock star. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you go on the road or even at home, it's like, it's like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and every, Tom Cruise all in the one, because, and the thing is, he just kind of walks around like, we always joke about, what's your favorite thing to do? Sleep. And I'm thinking, is this Sam Perkins or something? What do you mean your favorite thing is to sleep and work out and just trying to be the best baseball player in the history of the game is all it drives him. But I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything like it. Like I said, I've been around guys like Bo Jackson, where everyone just wants to, to be able to say I was near Bo Jack. Every human being in the world wants to see Shohei up close. Every one of our games, when we leave now, obviously, by the way, I love the fact that the game is much quicker right now with the pitch timer, but that's another story. Every fan stays to the last minute when you walk out, and just the excitement level that they witnessed something that Shohei did. No matter if he just missed a fly ball, hits it, up in the air deep to the, and it's caught. Doesn't matter. They all are in the same agreement that this witnessing something that we may, or I can almost guarantee we'll never see this ever. We're lucky enough to be able to witness this right now.
Can we go down the Bo Jackson road? Joe Madden used to compare him to Bo Jackson too. Does the Bo Jackson comparison extend beyond the oohs and ahs and the able to do two things at once phenomenon?
I think so, but it's because I remember even George saying the same thing as pitchers. We're creatures of habit. Sometimes we'll go up in the clubhouse, go get a drink or something like that, some Gatorade. But whenever you couldn't ever move off the bench when Bo Jackson was either in the field or in the plate or on the bases, because we were going, what is he going to do next? I think it's the same thing with Shohei. You never want to even move away from your seat because you might witness something. And if you don't see it, and you happen to move away, you're going to be upset with yourself. I always joke around, I did that 30 for 30 to one time when the pilot comes out of the cockpit and wants an autograph from Bo Jackson. I'm like, whoa, who's flying this plane, sir? And I'm gonna sweat right now because I don't love flying any. I'm like, and then the next pilot go, okay, is this an airplane movie? Is that one that random co-pilot could be flying this plane? But that's the thing. Every human being wants to say they've been around Shohei Ohtani just like Bo. And even when you see whether it was a baseball game or football game, I went to a bunch of the Raider games, and every one of the football players, these are guys that are like battling each other. They go up. Is there anybody in the world like this guy? I mean, they're in the middle of a football game. And that's the same thing now. Every time you run into anybody it plays against or watches Bo play or Shohei play now, they're going the same thing. I can't believe we're seeing what we're seeing from this guy. Yet it's the same demeanor, same thing as Bo. I mean, they just go, well, it's just me. But we're all going, you're not just me. You're not a human being. But it's the same thing. Their drive is so similar and yet it's no big deal. I'm just doing what I want to do. The rest of us are thinking we're seeing an Academy Award winning movie every single day.
Yeah. Well, I remember, in that series in Anaheim with the Cubs, I noticed he didn't really take batting practice a lot on the field. That was like something I was like, oh, wow, what does he do? So I was talking to Marcus Timms, and he was like, well, he hits off the tee a lot. I said, okay. And he said, yeah, I hit a ball 113 miles an hour off the tee the other day. I was like, 113 off the tee? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Like, he could stand at home and just hit it into the rocks off of a tee. I mean, and that reminds me of one of the times where, I wasn't paying attention to like each start, and it might have been before he was like formally doing the rotational thing. And it was like a week where I don't even know how many struck out. What's the most he struck out in a game? 15. It was something on that range. And then he hit 2 home runs. And I was like, wait a minute, I was trying to figure out, is that the same week or what just happened? Like, balls bouncing in the rocks, and then he's like striking everybody out, days later. It's mind blowing. I mean, and I just like most of us, like I pitched and hit, and I pitched through high school, even a little bit in college. And, even at that level, throwing hard, hitting, it's like still doesn't even compare to what Ohtani's doing at a major league level. It's absolutely bananas.
I think one of the incredible things about Ohtani that allows him to do this is he has really dialed in exactly the amount of work he needs to maintain his swing and pitching. So he doesn't throw a single ball that is unnecessary. He doesn't take a single swing that's unnecessary. So it's not like he's 24 hours a day just like killing himself, because I don't think that you could do that. So, but I mean, that's even more incredible that you can find the exact most efficient amount of batting practice to take, most efficient bullpens to take to do both of these jobs. And it's really incredible.
Incredible. All right, we'll get back to Shohei and what he does on the field and to get himself onto the field, but it is that time of year where we can't help but think about the future. And by that we mean, one, the trade deadline, two, what follows that this winter, free agency, where he'll be beyond this year. So can we start with the deadline? I have not talked to an executive from any other team who thinks Shohei will be traded at the deadline. You guys see this from the inside. So, Fletch, on a scale of 1 to 100, what do you think are the chances that the Angels trade him or even listen seriously at the deadline?
So is 1 the lowest?
Well, you can go 0. Want to go 0?
0.
0.
I think if they like lose 20 games in a row, between now and then, and have like absolutely no chance, then maybe they would listen. But even then, I think they still want to re-sign him. And if they trade him, then they can't re-sign him. So, or it hurts their chances of re-signing him. So, and now they're in it. They're very much in the race right now. So there's no reasonable way to justify trading him when you're in the race, especially when all these years they've all been talking about, we just got to get back to the playoffs. Let's get back to the playoffs. Let's get back to the playoffs. And if you finally have a chance to do it, and then you go, let's trade Ohtani because, maybe we won't re-sign him and we don't want to just get a draft pick. Well, that's just stupid. So I think I'm going to put it at 0.
Mark, what about you?
I'm going below 0. How about that?
Well, my 1 to 100 scale is not faring very well here.
No, I mean, right now, they just bring in Eduardo Escobar. They're bringing in Mike Moustakas. They're all in. These guys, they've been winners. They're great teammates. So Perry Manassian right now is trying to add players. There's no way you can even think that they would move Shohei Ohtani, because you know what? Right now, who would want to face the Angels? You get to the postseason. Who would want to face the Angels? You're going to face Shohei Ohtani the first game. So right away you're already up 1 game to none in a 5-game series or 7-game series. That gives you an automatic chance to go far in the postseason, get them in there twice during a series. That's what everyone keeps saying. They're going to trade him. There's no way you would even think about doing that, because what he's doing with this team, the excitement level, whether we're at home or on the road, and that, maybe from a purely selfish reason, I think we're all, because with the Angels and watching them daily, I can't even foresee them not re-signing him either. The friendships he has with Patrick Sandoval, with David Fletcher, Zach Neto, the great young player, Mickey Moniak, both had said he's their best teammate they've ever had. His comfort zone. A lot of people don't see Shohei away from the field in the dugout, how comfortable he is with his teammates, and how comfortable he is with everybody around the whole area with the Angels. That's going to come into play. As much as everyone say there's no way he's coming back as an Angel, I would say there's a real good chance he's going to stay an Angel for the rest of his career, because I think that level of comfort for him is huge. And the team finally, when you even look at some of the arms we've been seeing coming up from AA and some of the younger players they have in the system, he's got to believe finally there's a good core in the major league level, there's guys that they're going to be able to supplement and bring along as his career progresses here as an Angel.
All right, I want to revisit this too, but all right, let's roll the clock back. Last deadline, they weren't in it. There weren't a lot of indications they could extend him. Didn't even talk seriously about trading him then. Didn't do it this winter. And so it kind of raises that big picture question of, if you're out of it, should you then trade him? The Nationals, we saw what they did with Juan Soto when they were certain they couldn't sign him. The Red Sox traded Mookie Betts when they didn't know if they were going to be able to sign him, but they decided it wasn't a good bet. If there's even uncertainty, it seems like there's a lot of people who feel like the prudent business thing to do is to trade Shohei. Gubi, I think you've already sounded like you're on record as you'd rather not see that. Fletch, what do you think?
I mean, I think
are the Angels doing the right thing by holding on to this guy no matter what?
Well, I think a couple reasons. When you look at last year's deadline, if they trade him, they still could try to win in 2023. No matter what they did in 2022, they were going to try to be good in 2023. So trading him last year, even if they were totally out of it last year, which they were, they still wanted to try to win this year. So that was worth holding on to him. Now, I think that the premise that a lot of people go in with that I think is faulty is that the Angels have no chance of re-signing him. I think that is what a lot of people assume, which is based on basically, he's made these comments like, all I want to do is win. Winning is the most important thing. Every player says that. Every player thinks that. But they don't all just sign with, the Yankees or Dodgers. So other things matter. And a lot of those other things work out very well for Shohei Ohtani with the Angels. He's very comfortable. He's comfortable in his environment. He's comfortable with his teammates. The organization basically bends the whole roster around to fit him. He's not the easiest guy to just drop into your roster. It's not just like any team could just take, Garrett Cole and put him in and he fits perfectly. Shohei Ohtani does not necessarily fit perfectly with every team. And, I think that he knows how it works with the Angels. He doesn't necessarily know how it works with another team. He's also, he's got this deal with the Angels where he hardly ever has any media obligations or nobody bothers him. Nobody does anything. Maybe that would work someplace else. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it wouldn't be a big deal to him. Maybe it wouldn't be a big deal to the other team, but it's all an unknown that he doesn't have to worry about being unknown with the Angels. So I think all that adds up to there being some realistic chance of him re-signing with the Angels. And if there is that chance, you don't just give up on that, especially for what you're talking about for now that he's a rental. The return you'd get in a trade is not going to be this franchise altering. Nobody's trading you Michael Harris or Ellie De La Cruz or anything like that. So you're still just going to get some prospects. And if you keep him and you lose him, you get a draft pick and you get some money with the draft pick. So that's not nothing. So I just think when you add all that up, it's not like this all or nothing thing where like 0% chance of him coming back and 100% chance of you not making the playoffs with him. That's just not the case. So that's why I think, and we're not even talking about the fact that they make a lot of money off him. Like put all that aside, just from a baseball standpoint, I think they do have a chance to keep him. I think they do have a chance to win this year with him, regardless of whether he comes back. And there's value in that too. So that's why, as long as they're in it, I think it makes total sense to keep him. If they were sitting here right now, 12 games out, then I think it would be much more difficult conversation, because then I think your chances of re-signing him would be much lower. But I think as long as you look like you have a chance to win, I think there's a chance of him re-signing.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the narratives you hear a lot about is, you look at Mike Trout, right? So he's playing alongside a legacy Angel who's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, who's seen very little playoff experience. And, so I guess I'm curious about what you think Ohtani's personality is around that. Does he look at it and say, I don't want to be that guy, 5 years from now or 7 years from now? I don't know how old they are difference, probably not a ton, but a few years from now. Or, is he sort of like, okay, if we just get this, if we just get that, we could be perennial contenders. Because, the sort of outsider, the non-Angels outsider, selfish fan, thinks about like, gosh, I'd love to see these guys like in the postseason every single year. I mean, what magic would they do on center stage, Game 7? I mean, he's already an international phenomenon. What would he be if he's in Game 7 of the World Series? He'd be like, they'd be making like flags on Pluto in his name. His face would be on like Mars or something. So I'm curious, like how you see, Shohei Ohtani, like what does he want? And he has agents, he has other influencers that are like, dude, like maybe you need to think about this. I mean, what gives you like the feeling like, despite that, he can see through that in terms of his relationships and want to stay?
No, that's a great point, because I mean, you go back to the WBC when it was Team Japan versus Team USA. It's Shohei Ohtani, even Mike Trout at the end of the game. The excitement level we all felt as baseball fans, even fans of sports in general, became baseball fans because of that matchup. To see both of them competing as Angels trying to win a World Series would be huge. And I think part of that, they both felt that energy. Even Patrick Sandoval pitching for Team Mexico, the same thing. You felt that vibe as soon as they all got back together. You're kind of feeling that going right now. But as a pure baseball fan, and we all are here, you want to see them guys on the big stage. You want to see them like LeBron James every year going a chance to win a championship. You want to see them, where everyone goes, wow. So then you draw in average baseball fans because you're seeing a phenom like Shohei Ohtani in that stage. Hey, All-Star games, when a couple of years ago in Colorado, when he started the game, batted first, it was in home run derby. I mean, everyone was watching. Ratings were incredible. You want to see that. And I know right now for baseball, I just saw something today where there's so many fans going to the game. There's so much excitement level now. We're seeing part of it because what we saw in the WBC, where you want to have the stars of the game in those big moments. And that's why I think, Marty Moreno's, allowing Perry Manassian to go out and add on. I don't think they're done trying to do that. They're going to do everything they can to get that thing where Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, the respect that Shohei has for Trout is unbelievable. It's still, he'll say, this is Mike Trout's team. Although when you look at what Shohei's doing, you can go either way on that one. But they both won. I mean, I love the fact that when, after they've had some back-to-back home runs where Mike Trout is there to give the Kabuto hat to Shohei Ohtani. For me, that's not easy to do when you're a star and you're sharing your stardom with another star. It's not easy. You know this. It's not easy to do that because to be great, you have to have an incredible ego. Yet these guys share that same want to be in the postseason together and to see what they can do as a part of a franchise and go to that biggest stage and win it all.
I don't think that, if I answer that one real quickly, I don't think that Mike Trout certainly signed up to never make the playoffs. When he signed his extension, he certainly didn't believe that was what the Angels were going to do. And if Shohei Ohtani doesn't believe that the Angels are going to be good, then he's not going to re-sign. But the question is there enough there for a reasonable person to believe that they could be good, despite the fact that they haven't been? Their farm system is getting a little better. They're pretty decent this year. And they're not, there's some teams, we can all name them, that are just perennially not in it, and you don't think they're going to be in it. And the Angels are not in that category, despite the fact that they have failed recently. So I think that it's just going to be how Ohtani perceives the future.
In your book, Sho-Time, let me find it here. Hold on. There it is. Available everywhere books are sold. There's so much insight into this guy, and
Japanese also, by the way.
Wow.
But anyway,
cool.
Nice.
Very cool. I didn't know you could write in Japanese. So one of my favorite parts of this book is the account of how he went about free agency the last time, because it went fast. It was very West Coast centric, other than the Cubs. It really wasn't even about the money. It was about comfort level. You guys have talked about it even today. How much insight, Fletch, do you think that provides into how the next foray into free agency is going to go this winter?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really the only data points that we have. He certainly doesn't say anything, but if we look at what happened the first time, it was clear that he didn't just want to get the most money, because first of all, even of the small amount of money that he was able to get by the international signing rules, he still could have gotten more from some other teams. And he also could have just waited a couple of years and gotten a ton more money. He would have been a free agent, could have gotten $200 million or whatever. So I think money is not the primary thing. And for whatever anybody thinks they know about Shohei Ohtani, and I don't certainly know everything, but one thing I know is he's going to go where he wants to go, not just what the dollar value is the highest, because he's going to get plenty of money from whoever. There's going to be 6 or 7 teams that are in the ballpark. They're all going to give him ungodly amount of money, and then he's just going to pick the one that he wants to go to the most, which is what he did the last time. So, and also, it didn't take him very long, and it also didn't take him very long to sign an arbitration. His last year of arbitration this year, he signed his deal in October, and normally that's the thing that happens in like January, February. So I think that he just wants this business to be done, and he wants to just go where he's going to be comfortable, and not like do what the Scott Boras client would do, is just drag it on out till the last possible minute and get every single dollar he can possibly get. I do not think that's going to happen. I think that when the season ends, he's going to say, all right, come bring me your offers like right now, and let's talk, and I'm going to pick a team, and that'll be that.
All right, let me follow up on that. Because, as you wrote, he wasn't interested in the Yankees last time. He didn't put the Mets on his list. I know he talked to the Dodgers with that quote from Clayton Kershaw after he flew in for the meeting when it was on his wedding anniversary, right? Something like that. The whole thing was a waste of time. Like, that's still in my head. Those are the teams that would figure to drive the dollars or the yen to historic territory. Do you think he's more open to those teams now than he was when he first came to the major leagues?
Well, there is one very significant difference now, is that the DH exists in the National League, which was not the case back then. And I really don't think he had any interest in playing a position. I think just being a pitcher and a hitter is hard enough, but being a pitcher and an outfielder would be way too much on his body, I think. So that pretty much changes the equation as far as that goes. I still am very skeptical that the big East Coast, big market kind of teams, Mets or Yankees, Red Sox, that kind of thing, that he would really be interested in that, just because he's really just wants to be as under the radar as he can possibly be, to whatever extent that's possible. So I would find it really, really hard to believe that he would be interested in the Yankees or Red Sox. The Mets are the only exception to that, and I think that's because of Billy Epler, because Billy Epler was basically the guy who convinced him to pick the Angels, and he had a great relationship with Billy. Now, the way the Mets are going right now, who knows, Billy Epler might not be there. But I think that the Billy Epler factor certainly would maybe convince him to go to a situation like that. But otherwise, I think he would like to just be a West Coast kind of, not a big media bubble sort of thing. And the Dodgers obviously are that, plus they always win. And now they have a DH. So I think that's why most people still think the Dodgers are probably the most likely team if he does not re-sign with the Angels.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. Yeah, well, that's the one thing I think about. Like, well, he could just drive down the street, like, so if you're comfortable in Southern Cal and all these things, yeah, it strikes me as just an incredible loyalty, and just trying to, like you said, just play ball. It reminded me of Scott Rowland in that way. Like, Scott's like, just give me my lunch, let me just play ball, okay? Like I just want. It's like, I don't want all this stuff, and just being that good, is really remarkable. And I guess with Ohtani, we were talking about the team, and I'm curious about what you think about the team overall. You mentioned the future possibilities of the development side, and this season, I got to see them sweep the Cubs as a team that looked pretty sharp, but guys have gone down a little bit in terms of Urshela and so on. So what do you see as the Angels outside of these two super forces in Trout and Ohtani?
Yeah, the thing for me, Doug, right now, coming into the season, I thought when you talk about the strength of the season, I thought it was their starting rotation. Granted, they're young. Reed Depners, Patrick Sandoval, Griffin Canning's been throwing the ball very, very well. At that point, Jose Suarez, who's been injured now. I really thought that was going to be something that gave him a chance to win every game. Yet, it hasn't been consistent yet. The bullpen, which is always a question mark, Perry Minasian said, you know what? I'm going with some power arms that came up from Double-A. I mean, these guys are really solid. And, bullpen guys are like kickers in the NFL. And when you miss a field goal and everything goes, you don't notice them unless they miss a field goal, I should say. When they're doing their job on the mound and bullpen, we don't even talk about them. So their starting staff is starting to come together. So that's why I feel really comfortable saying I really feel they got a real great shot of getting to the postseason this year. And everyone's going to say, oh, you're always optimistic. But I'm seeing these guys every day and talking to them every day. They're still, Mike Trout hasn't really hit peak form yet. And yet they're 5 games over 500. They're that close, about a game out, a half a game out of the wild card spot. He's going to get rolling. He's starting to show some signs of that. Eduardo Escobar, I mean, just watching him a couple games already, I'm like, I saw him from afar thinking, this guy can hit. But this already the presence he brings 2 days into the team, what he does as far as his approach. Anthony Rendon was that guy when he's out there. When he comes back, which hopefully won't be too much longer, guys that are winners and guys have an idea at the plate make everyone else, those younger players. Logan O'Hoppe, I'll tell you what, he would have been in that conversation for Rookie of the Year. He's that big of a difference maker. Same thing with Zach Neto. Both of those guys are going to be back at some – Neto obviously before O'Hoppe, but O'Hoppe's not that far away from coming back. So you have those young guys, the infusion. Mickey Moniak's been great. There's a reason why he was a 1-1. He was a first overall pick, first rounder. He's clutch as can be. Every time I look up, I was saying yesterday in the game, 7th inning or later, close game, feel pretty good about what he's going to do. Boom, it's a double off the wall in dead center in Colorado. All those things are going to come together, but it all starts around the rotation. Shohei Ohtani is the head of that rotation. He's figured out something. His balance has been better. He had that little bit of a tough stretch where his sweeper, break a ball, whatever we want to call it, was a little bit. I think with the rotation going right now, I think they got a great shot, and that's going to make everything around the team, the energy level. Boy, that series, even though they got beat both games against the Dodgers, that stadium was crazy. And I think going forward, it's going to be that way because people expect them to win because the things they're adding in there as far as those extra pieces.
Jeff, one of my favorite anecdotes in your book is this is from during free agency. Shohei decides he wants to come see the stadium in Anaheim, but there's a slight problem. The Eagles are practicing there.
We had to get a Philly. We had to get a Philly mention, right?
Right. We did. So we have several suspects, right? We have Mark Gubicza, Mike Scioscia, and we have Mike Trout, Eagles season ticket holder. We're not sure who made that happen. You can reveal it here. It's not in the book. And why was there a football team there? And how did it impact Shohei's free agency?
Well, I don't know exactly what the connection was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mike Trout, but the Eagles, I believe, had played the Rams 1 week, and then the next week they were playing the Seahawks, or vice versa, and they didn't want to fly all the way back coast to coast twice, so they just stayed on the West Coast in between the games and borrowed Angel Stadium to have their practices. So the Angels, that meant, the stadium, which normally there's nobody there in December, they had to sneak Shohei in there so nobody would see him because there's a whole football team and media and all kinds of people thrown around. And so they had to kind of sneak him in to avoid people being seen. But it was kind of an interesting little tidbit that happened.
Let's have Mark Gubicza admit it's all his doing, right?
Yeah. I wish I could claim that. You know what? As an Eagle fan, or as an Eagle fan, we would call him. Going back, when the teams that had to go from coast to coast over the years never do well. So why not have them go to the Angel Stadium to work out? It works out for a perfect scenario.
I saw Mike Scioscia the next week. I was as excited as I've seen him about anything. The Eagles showed up in his stadium. Tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, he's about as stoic as any human being ever. You didn't know if you were up 11 or down 11.
I know, right?
We still text all the time whenever there's an Eagle game going on. Good or bad? Usually it's the bad ones when you're really screaming, go, what's going on here? Let's get some protection for hurt behind there. We need the offensive line to do their job. But I mean, to have them guys there, and I think, when you watch a football game up close or watch these guys work out, I mean, then you look at Shohei. By the way, Shohei Ohtani right now probably could play football. I'm sure he's pretty good at football. Anything he does, you never doubt. It's like Bo knows. I mean, Bo would, you throw him in. Could he play ice hockey? I mean, Wayne Gretzky, I've never played, goes, no. But again, I wouldn't doubt if Bo could have played hockey. Same thing with Shohei. He could probably do anything he wants to do.
I have another question for you guys. Just did a show on MLB Network with Steve Phillips, who's a former general manager of the Mets. And, it's Steve's belief that the Angels should not pay the money to this guy because there's no way he can keep doing both. And so this is on my mind. Probably it's his fault, but how long do you think he can continue to do both, especially at this level? Mark, what do you think?
Oh, you know what? Jayson, Doug, and Fletcher, I think the same thing. I scratched my head. I'm like, man, how can he do this? How can you physically and mentally do this? Because every day everyone's asking, you tired? And his standard answer is, I want to win. He doesn't allow anything. It doesn't allow a follow-up question that I just want to win. Well, how do you answer that or ask another question? I just want to win. Well, I mean, I would think minimum the way he's going right now. I had no idea he'd be able to do it 1 year, let alone doing it this level. And I think each year from 21 to 22, 23, I think he's better at what he's doing. I would say no less than probably 4 to 5 more years of doing the same. So if you win, a couple of world championships during that stretch before he goes and does one or the other, then you're still okay. And for me, I think 4 or 5 more years, because his discipline, his work ethic, and his desire to be the best player the game has ever seen. That's the thing that doesn't get talked a lot about. He wants to be known as the best player ever. And every player now goes, there's never been anybody better. And he's only done it for a short little window. He wants to be that best player ever. And to do that, I think to do both is something that's going to drive him for some time more.
That's the thing people forget. He came here to do both. You can't impose on him that he should just do one. He's all about both. Fletch, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how many more years he's going to be able to do it, but I do feel confident that whatever number of years contract he gets, 8, 9, 10, he's not going to be doing it both for all that time, because that's just too much to even fathom. If he is, then it's even more of a miracle than what he's done. So, on the other side of the coin is that, if you sign a pitcher to an 8-year deal and he's not a good pitcher after 5 years, you're in trouble. You sign Ohtani to an 8-year deal and he's only a hitter at the last 3, you're still getting a lot more value than, the Nationals have gotten from Patrick Corbin, at the end of his contract or something like that. So that's the other way to look at it, is that he's sort of the most risky free agent ever because he can't keep doing what he's doing, but maybe he's the safest free agent ever because he's got 2 ways to go and you're going to get something. I mean, like, for example, when he had Tommy John surgery, he had like the most productive Tommy John surgery rehab ever because he had 30 home runs during his Tommy John rehabs. So that's kind of what you're looking at with him.
It's like, yeah, I think of Bryce Harper. Well, I'm curious about, like, we all love this game, and there's like always the lessons we're trying to pull from it. And I'm curious, when you think of the moment of, like, you have the 2, greatest players in many facets, in some, under some metrics, some understandings, you have the 2 greatest players on one team, and it's still so hard to win. So I guess, what is your takeaway from that? Just that simple statement about baseball and what you love about it and what you don't necessarily love about that statement. I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, Doug. I mean, that's a great point. I remember when A-Rod signed with the Texas Rangers, like, okay, they're going to win the World Series. Well, baseball, more than any other sport, basketball, if you have 2 superstars, we see that a lot, you have a chance to win a championship and a number of them. And, even in football, if you have as long as you have that one, great receiver or running back with a great quarterback and a solid offensive line, you can win. But baseball, because we saw it in Colorado, you score 25 runs the day before, and then the next day, regardless of what the pitcher Gomber's ERA is, when you're locked in as a pitcher, there's nothing you can do. That's the beauty of baseball. I think more than any other sport, you need everybody. You got to have other players buy into, I don't need to be the star. When you think about Academy Award winning movies, there's your stars, there's a lot of good co-stars, and you need the co-stars to sign off and go, I'm okay with not getting all the attention. And then baseball, you need to have a bunch of other players on your team. You got to, guys in the bullpen to come in and do their job. Starting pitchers got to do their job. Guys off the bench got to be willing to play once or twice a week, but come in and win a game for you. Hey, we won a World Series in '85. We had no business winning a World Series. Toronto was a better team than us. They were up 3 games to 1. The Cardinals were better, but we played as a team. You need 25 guys now, 26 guys. That's what I love about our game so much more than any other sport. You cannot win a baseball, go to the playoffs and win a World Series with 1 or 2 guys. You can't. You just can't do it. No matter how good they are, you need those guys around them to make them better, but also to sign off them being good enough to be able to help this team win and do whatever it takes to win. That's why, like, even talking to Phil Nevin yesterday, he goes, I finally feel we have some guys on this team right now, or all they care, because they're going to be, because of these add-ons from when you get Rendon back, and you get Neto back. boy, all of a sudden, who's getting these at bats? But he said every one of the guys to a unison said, all we care is getting to the playoffs. And that's what you got to have. You got to have that mentality that all that matters is getting to the postseason. Everything else will take care of itself down the road. And that's what makes baseball so unique and beautiful is you need everyone to sign off and saying, and no matter what, even if I'm getting less at bats than I normally would on another team, I'm willing to do that to win.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll add that it's not just you need to have a lot of good players, but you need to have a lot of good young players because those young guys are cheap and they also tend to stay healthy better because they're young and they improve. And that's what the Angels really have not had is they've not had a farm system that's been able to produce like 10 or 12 significant producing guys that, you know, are making the major league minimum. And so you have to fill in every single hole with somebody you get from another team. And those guys, usually their age starts with a 3, which is not good. And they make a lot of money. So all of that is just very risky. And that's basically why it hasn't worked so far.
All right. Before we let you go, we have to talk about what happened with the Angels Saturday night. I turned on that game. It was 15-0. Then it was 23-0. Then it was 25-0. Wound up as the only 25-1 game in the modern era. This is known on this show as our kind of game. So, Gooby, you were calling that game with Matt Vasgersian.
Yeah.
How would you describe what you saw?
Well, you know what? As it was unfolding and when they scored 13 runs in the third inning, I'm like, wait a minute. As I'm going to filling out my scorebook, and I'm still one of those. I don't know how to do an iPad. I'm writing it down. I'm like, my hands are getting kind of tired here. I'm thinking, wait a minute now. Are they ever going to make it out? It wasn't like the crazy thing. There was no errors made. There was no position players pitching in that game. Usually you'll see that when a score like that. So you go, I don't know about those runs being scored. Everything they did that day was like they kept adding on. I'm like, and then I'm thinking, wait a minute now. Hunter Renfroe's 5 for 5. Mickey Moniak's 5 for 5. That's only happened, 5 times in history where teammates were 5 for 5 in the game. And he also got on base, with a walk and hit by pitch. So they were on base 6 times. Shohei Ohtani was like 1 for 7 in the game, yet they scored 25 runs. Mike Trout, they hit 3 consecutive home runs on 3 pitches. One was a fastball, one was a cutter, one was a curveball. I'm like, how is this possible? I kept looking at Maddie. I'm like, this isn't real. And I remember going home that night. I'm thinking I couldn't sleep because I'm thinking this is pretty cool to be able to witness something and talk about something that may not ever happen again. First time in history for the franchise to score that many runs and that many hits, but to see how they did it and the respect they still have for the Colorado Rockies, especially because I obviously Bud Black's the manager. It wasn't where guys were like joking around, messing around, other than their normal excitement level. But to see that unfold, you know what? It was one of the coolest things. I can't believe how many base hits. Then you got David Fletcher hitting a home run. David Fletcher,
Of course he did.
Incredible. And then Mickey Moniak hit the home run like he did. I'm thinking he's going to hit for the cycle. And then he hits a ball, and I'm thinking it's a triple. I'm about ready to jump out of my seat and just go out of my mind. He kind of going around first base. I'm like, all right, he's got one more at bat. And then the next at bat, he hits a line drive. The right fielder, Jones, just luckily enough got at least a part of the glove on it to keep it from getting away. Otherwise, he's hitting for the cycle. I'm thinking, what else could happen right now? One of those games, I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, nothing about that game made any sense.
No.
Jeff, I know you were off over the weekend, but you must have a favorite tidbit from that game. You're a tidbit collector.
I do have a favorite tidbit, and I'm actually surprised that Gooby didn't mention this. But to me, the 1 is more impressive than the 25 because that is Coors Field, and it wasn't like 25-8. The Angels gave up 1 run, and Griffin Canning, the starter, gave up 0. And at that point, he's basically just trying not to walk people. And so if you're just gonna throw the ball over the plate and still give up no runs over 6 innings, I think that's a pretty impressive feat. And Canning himself has been really good over the last 6 starts. So I think that really bodes better for the Angels in the big picture than one day where everybody got a bunch of hits. So I like to point at the pitching, even in a game like that. Right, Gooby?
Oh, that's beautiful. You gave some pitchers some love on that one too. But
it was a pitching failure, though. The whole world wanted it to be 25 zip.
Exactly. It's funny because it's so weird. The next day, somebody goes, it was 1984. We beat the Oakland A's 16-0. I have to be on the mound that day. And I'll tell you what, as a pitcher, when you're pitching in those games, and Doug, you know this, you're saying, dude, you better not walk anybody because you're walking me. How many more runs do we need? Throw strikes, throw fastballs. But the beauty about Griffin Canning was, you know what? He stayed the same course. He was still throwing his changeup. He was still throwing the slider. He wasn't caught up and going, nothing but fastball. See how far you can hit it. Because you know what? Bottom line is, baseball is a game of individual numbers. So you don't want to give up earned runs by just throwing that fastball down the middle of the plate, especially in that yard.
All right. We got to let you guys run. But Gooby, Fletch, you guys are the best. Watch Mark Gubicza call those Angels games. Always great. Read Sho-Time by Jeff Fletcher. Tremendous. Guys, thanks for joining us. Please come back and visit us in Starkville again. I'm going to guess it won't be the last time we talk about that Shohei Ohtani guy.
Who? Who's that guy?
Okay, it's that time again. It's time for listener trivia, our way of involving you, our favorite listeners in this show. Doug, aren't we kind of the Ohtanis of trivia now? Like, the world has never seen anything like us since Ken Jennings?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, offense, defense, pitching. We're run preventing and we're run creating. So those two, yeah, sort of so we're creating trivia and we're preventing trivia from beating us. It's something like that. So I don't know what our OPS is, but it's pretty good.
I was thinking we're unicorns. We're trivia unicorns.
I like it.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
All right, so Mayor Tim is on another assignment this week. Didn't know that could happen to mayors, but he told us last week we're now 10-3 in trivia. So this is the start of spring training. 10-3. So what do you say we make that 11-3 this week? Huh? Let's do it.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go for it. Yeah.
Okay. There's only one piece of bad news. Our special trivia guest star this week has stumped us before. It's our friend Jimmy Hawkins. Jimmy, welcome back to Starkville.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Doug, I'm sure you recall Jimmy is a Phillies fan. A one-time huge Doug Glanville fan. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good days.
Of course.
Man. Good days.
Yeah.
The Phillies weren't too good while he was there, but
no,
he was still a fan favorite.
Yeah, I appreciate
Very much
that.
so. Still is.
Yeah.
So how many times have you been on this show? And have we ever gotten one of your questions right?
I've been on 5 times before. This will be my 6th, and you have not gotten any yet. So hopefully you get this one.
Yeah,
That's
I don't remember getting any. I know that.
0 for 6.
Jimmy's one of those guys, like, we call for questions every week. Jimmy submits a lot of questions. He's got a great mind for this, greater than ours.
He does.
And so this is a big moment, right? We never miss anymore. We never get his questions. So this is the defining moment for him and for us. How about that for trivia drama, huh?
Yes, game 7 or game 6 in this case.
Right. Okay. So we asked for Ohtani related questions. Jimmy came through because that's what he does. All right, man. Why don't you hit us with your question?
All right. So there's only one answer this week. No, there's no 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, anything like that. So it's just one guy this time.
Okay.
And I said, Shohei Ohtani and Team Japan just won the World Baseball Classic this year, and he is a heavy, heavy favorite to win the MVP as of right now. So my question is, who is the only player to win the World Baseball Classic and an MVP in the same season?
Okay, the only player to win an MVP award after playing for the winning team in the WBC. Doug, this is hard. It's hard.
Now, this is like, so the WBC is first, and then that season after
that's
that?
right. That's right. Same here.
Okay.
You realize, Doug, there's only one answer. You don't get to utilize your latest subtle cheating scheme, right?
Yeah, it's become subtle now, and then it's very quiet. Yeah, it's like best out of 7.
It's been exposed, but it's subtle. We're going to go with subtle.
We'll go with subtle.
Yeah, so that's one reason it's hard. The other reason is it's just so hard to remember who won the WBC back in the day. So I feel like we've got a better chance of remembering who won the MVP in those years. I don't know. We're just going to kind of muddle through this.
So
Okay, so the last WBC before this one was 2017. The USA won.
Yep.
Astros and Dodgers were in the World Series. I have no recollection. I think Altuve was the AL MVP. Is that right? And then the NL,
sounds
I
right.
just can't even remember.
Mm,
So I don't have a good feel for that one.
17.
Before that was
Yeah.
2013.
Mhm.
Wasn't that Miggy's Triple Crown year? And I feel like it was a Venezuela WBC year. So
Mm.
I'm going to lean hard on Miggy as the last one. Before that, we had 2006, and Cam told us 2009 was the other. I think Japan won in 2006. So Ichiro, but they never won the World Series. And then 2009, the Yankees won the World Series.
Well, they don't have to win the World Series, do they?
Oh, right.
No World Series.
Yeah,
just,
so
right.
Phillies,
the MVP.
Yankees, 2009.
Yep, Phillies,
Korea
Yankees.
win that year? I don't know.
Korea. Well, we think there's like two Japans, the Team USA, and that's like Korea and Venezuela, maybe.
Hey, so
those are our guesses of like who won.
yeah,
I mean, who else? We know the Dominican hadn't won. Puerto Rico lost to Team USA.
right.
Did Mexico ever win? I don't think they.
Not that I recall. No.
So,
Okay, my best guess is Miggy. Maybe you can persuade me otherwise.
I mean, I thought about Ichiro, but when would that be, right? Like
what team did he win the World Series with?
Well, you don't have to win the World Series.
He didn't have to win a World
okay,
Series.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.
But he won.
Yeah.
But he only won MVP his rookie year.
What year?
Correct? 2001.
Yeah, what year?
That's pre-WBC.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's why I was right. Japan. Well, all right. So that's actually not too bad. Any other from
Matsui?
Japan?
Matsui in 09, but I don't think they won in 09. I think they won in 06.
You mean the Japanese? They won.
Yeah.
I don't know when they won. Yeah, they won the first one, right?
They
didn't win the first two WBCs, or they just won one.
I don't think so.
I thought they were dominant.
I saw them win in 09.
Oh, what about Cuba? Did Cuba win?
Cuba lost to
No?
Japan early on, and they really haven't been great since. But they were playing with play until this year with players who were not in MLB, so they're out.
Okay, let's make sure we're not missing
I'm
a
all
country.
I'm all in on Miggy. I don't have a better guess.
Yeah, I mean that's so Venezuela. Yeah, I mean I could go with that. I mean, I don't know. That's I can't even think of the country. Team USA 2017.
Yeah,
and nobody on that team won the MVP.
Could have.
I mean, Trout. Well, all right, we know Trout wasn't on that team, right? Because
correct.
Right.
Adam Jones.
Adam Jones, right?
He was on that team, but he didn't win the MVP.
Marcus Stroman.
Who was on that team? Come on. Who won the MVP award in 2017? Why do we not remember this? That's pre-Bellinger.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. No, I'm thinking 19. 2017 Dodgers. It's pre-Bellinger.
Yeah. Kershaw? Didn't pitch in WBC.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go through that whole roster. I don't know any of the roster, so that doesn't help. Arenado.
He was on the team, didn't win the MVP.
All right.
Let's just guess. Let's just guess.
All right. We'll go with your guess. That's
okay. I don't like our chances, but Jimmy, is there any shot that the correct answer is Miguel Cabrera?
It is not Miguel Cabrera.
So close.
Who would it be then?
You were right on the track of the Team USA from 2017, and it was Giancarlo Stanton.
Ooh,
wow!
59 home runs. Ooh, Stanton.
Wait, so Stanton was the MVP in 2017. Who knew?
59. I wish I remembered his home run totals. 59 home runs, right? That's when then he went to the Yankees. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right. I go. What have we learned?
Although we've learned
we're not perfect, and I hate it when that happens.
We'd have to go through the whole roster, and I would have
who was? I don't know who was going to get a WBC trivia question right. Nobody could do that.
I like it. That's the point, though. We got to challenge ourselves, man.
Yeah, but those WBC games don't even count. So should this count against us? What do you think?
They count in our soul. So since we're very soulful people, I'm going to say yes. We'll allow it.
Sure, why not? Whatever. As you know, whether we get the questions right or wrong, we then change the subject here beautifully. In this segment, we bring in the mayor of Starkville, or in this case, the acting mayor of Starkville, Cameron Molina, to play a classic play-by-play clip involving this week's answers. Cam, what do you got for us?
That was a beautiful segue into this, Jason. And just a real quick side note, some nuggets on that 2013 WBC that you guys were kind of lumped on. The Dominican Republic were the champions of 2013, Puerto Rico second, Japan took third place. But
as you DR won.
Yeah, DR won. And as you mentioned, John Carl Stanton winning the MVP in 2017. On March 18, 2017, against the Dominican Republic, coincidentally enough, he hit a fourth inning 2-run jack, maybe a prelude to that 59 home run MVP season. Here you go.
Stanton to left! Good night now! There's the big fella! They're replacing a brick in the Western Metal Supply Company building. The end of the night for Irvin Santana. The U.S. has grabbed its first lead of the night.
Sounded kind of loud.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, Matt Vasgersian on the call. The clip was great. Our answer, not that great. We gave it a good try, though.
Yeah, 20.
So, Jimmy,
good one.
Way to go. You're 6-0. We're gonna have to have you back until we finally end your streak. Need to do that.
We're gonna bring him back.
I thought you might get this one because there was only so few World Baseball Classics. So I thought you maybe been able to narrow it down to one of the teams, but
we tried. we tried our darndest, but as usual, when you come on, we failed. So listen,
That's
man,
right.
thank you.
We'll bring him
thank
back
you
for the playoffs.
Him or us. Hey, thank you for being such a loyal listener and trivia submitter. Please come back again sometime.
I'm always submitting questions, so you just got to pick it, and I'll be back. So
okay, it sounds like a plan.
All right, Jim. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Doug, it's been a long time since we've had as many great options for this Strange but True segment as we have this week. But since we're all Ohtani all the time on this show, how can we not go back to what happened in Coors Field Saturday night when the Angels just nipped the Rockies in a thriller 25-1? Okay. First off, let's just pull the curtain back again on what it's like to be me as the official curator of baseball weirdness. This is one of those games that even on Saturday night in June, I just can't escape. My phone starts to rattle when this stuff happens because there are just so many people out there who feel the need to alert me to what they tell me is a Jayson Stark game. Okay. And then there goes the rest of my night. So they alert me. I joined the action just as the Angels were finishing up the 13-run third inning that Mark Gubicza was just talking about. So it was 15-0 in the third inning, and you don't see that much. And Doug, you were texting me about this game, so obviously you were into it too. When did you become aware that this was going on?
I mean, I think they probably had 15. I mean, it was something ridiculous, but I know I took a screenshot of the MLB app or something.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, and that's it. I didn't have to comment. I was like, what's happening right now? So yeah, that was, wow. I mean, and it just kept going. I mean, I was like, are they going to get 50, 70? I was like, there was no end in sight.
Yeah. I wasn't ruling out 40. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, what was like third inning?
Third inning. Yeah. Wow. Let's start with that third inning. I mentioned the Angels scored 13 runs in the third inning. Let's start with how that inning began, because the first 3 pitches of this inning were unbelievable.
Trout sends a ball to deep center field. That one is gonna go. 3-0 Halos. Did they go back-to-back again? Yeah, they did! Brandon Drury gets one! Matt Theis to right. And that was gonna go. 3 straight homers on 3 straight pitches.
Matt Vasgersian is back. It's a big Matt Vasgersian play-by-play day on this show. So just to recap, that's 3 pitches from Chase Anderson, who was pitching for the Rockies, 3 home runs. So that would be incredible enough, except for this. Over the last 4 seasons, there have been only 2 games in the whole sport where any pitcher gave up back-to-back homers on 3 pitches. And both times the pitcher was who, Doug?
A position player.
No, Chase Anderson both times.
Chase Anderson.
He also did it on September 17th, 2020. How nuts is that? So he's got a little niche in our sport and in our show. Let's do some more fun stuff. There's so many notes from this game. I'll be writing about this later in the week. The Angels had not scored 21 runs in a game in 7 years. They'd scored 21 runs once in the previous 19 years. And then, I want you to think about this. They scored 21 runs in 2 innings. 2. That hadn't happened since 1890. 21 runs in 2 innings. Are you kidding? I keep going back to look at this. And so how about this? At one point, they were 17 for 21 with 4 walks and 5 homers. So I want you to think about that. 25 hitters, 21 of them reached base. 21 out of 25. Doug, you played a lot of baseball. Did you ever experience anything quite like that in your esteemed career?
No chance. I mean, 21 out of 25. I mean, I always talk about my debacle in college, but I don't think that, they scored 3, 7, and 5. It wasn't 21 runs in 2 innings. I mean, I don't even understand those numbers. And 17 for 20. What is that batting average, by the way? 17 for 21. I mean, it's like, well, it's the math on that.
870 or something.
870. I mean,
there'll be more batting average math coming up, by the way.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, I didn't hit that well in high school, and I hit like 5 something, but I don't think I had a stretch of 870.
Yeah. Their whole team did that. The whole team.
Their whole team.
All right, a couple more here. I tweeted about this one. People are still retweeting it. So the Angels had gone longer without a 5-hit game than any team in the entire American League. So then Hunter Renfroe became the first Angel in 5 years to get 5 hits in a game. And then, because baseball is awesome, Mickey Moniak became the first Angel to get 5 hits in a game since 2 hitters ago. So they waited 5 years, and then 2 hitters later, another guy did it, because that's just what baseball is. And now, all right, one more. We just got to bring the Ohtani conversation full circle. Oh, yeah. Mark Gubicza was kind of alluding to this, but let's think about one more piece of incomprehensible math. So the Angels made 27 outs in the game, because that's how it works. Shohei Ohtani made 7 of the 27 outs. Okay. He was 1 for 7 with a double play ball. He made 2 outs in 1 inning at one point. So how about this, Doug? Angels not named Ohtani. It's 600 in the game. This is over an entire 9-inning game. Doug, is there an explanation for that? Come on.
Have we checked the solar eclipse calendar or lunar eclipse calendar? I mean,
no eclipses. Nope.
Nothing. I mean, it's probably more rare than that. I mean, I'm trying to look at the sky. I mean, that was just like, I don't even know what happened. You just kind of feel like there's something bigger at play here when you just can't find an out. I mean, outs are easy to come by, I'm telling you. But wow, I mean, the 3 pitches, like 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's just like, how do you do that? I mean, I don't know. It was just miraculous. And look, Colorado is a dream park to hit in. I mean, it gets a lot of heat because of the altitude, but it's also a gigantic park. Like, you could fit Fenway in it, and the grass is cut like a bald eagle or something. I mean, it's so anything on the ground is through, anything in the air is gone or in the gap, and you can't cover all the outfield. So I know it's a dream, excuse me, outside of the altitude, it's actually the construction, the field conditions make it even more crazy. So yeah, it's the right park for that to happen. But even by Colorado standards, that's ludicrous.
And then the Angels scored no runs the first 5 innings the next day, of course.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like there's only
3.
Yep, they did. I feel like there's only one word that describes how that was possible. You know what it was? Baseball, my friend. Baseball. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be bringing you podcast magic just like this all season long on the Athletic Baseball Show, which is available in its entirety, absolutely free, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to read my Weird and Wild column or any of the great baseball coverage in The Athletic, we can tell you how. Just go to theathletic.com/baseball show. And if you're a new subscriber, you can sign up for a 1-year subscription for just $1 a month for the next 12 months. Wow, how about that? Also remember, you too can be part of this podcast. Every show, we pick some fun listener trivia question. Then that lucky listener gets to join us right here and prove, once again, there's almost no baseball trivia question we can't get wrong. So how could you join us? There are several ways now. First way, you can email us at starkville@theathletic.com. That's Starkville with an E on the end. You can also check out my Facebook fan page, where we have found 2 trivia contestants just this month. Or you can do what Jimmy Hawkins did this week and send us those questions via the remnants of Twitter. And Doug, you're a remnant of Twitter. Where could people find you and your blue check mark?
I'm still around. Maybe a fossil at a certain point. You could dig me up as an archaeologist, a paleontologist or something. But you would find me then at this blue check mark, amazingly still there, at Doug Glanville. Just my name, DougGlanbille. That's it.
Okay, that's it. You don't have to spell my whole name. It's Jaysonst, Jason with a Y-S-T. Just hashtag those questions, hashtag StarkvilleQS. Doug, thanks for playing. Thanks to Mark Gubicza and Jeff Fletcher for visiting us.
Yes.
Thanks to Jimmy Hawkins for the great trivia question. Thanks to the acting mayor of Starkville, Cameron Molina, for producing us and putting up with us. And thanks to you all for listening. Doug and I will see you next week on Starkville.
Starkville.
Is there some kind of delay in Connecticut?
That sounded good, actually.